It's hard to believe that it's been a little over 5 years since Lincoln first brought back the beloved Aviator nameplate to the States back in 2019. Now, just like the original model from 2006, this model was designed to slot below the Big Daddy Navigator, and it's built on the latest Ford Explorer architecture. Now, just like its more plebeian Ford cousin, Lincoln is giving the Aviator a pretty significant update for 2025, and the changes are pretty extensive. They include an updated front end with new headlights, grille, and bumper, restyled wheels, a simplification of the engines underneath the hood, and on the inside we get brand new infotainment screens with their latest Lincoln digital experience. So as you can see, this week we are testing out the latest 2025 Aviator with the Reserve 2 upgrade package, and the big question I went answered: has Lincoln made enough changes to their baby Navigator to keep this model interesting? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the updated styling changes that Lincoln made this year, let me first go ahead and pop the hood and remind you guys what's powering this thing. Now, when the Aviator first launched, it had a very potent engine, a base engine, which was a 3-liter twin-turbo V6. They also offered a plug-in hybrid. They've discontinued the hybrid option, so now the base engine remains the 3-liter twin-turbo V6. Now, as you can see underneath the hood, it isn't the prettiest engine bay, but what you're actually seeing here is an engine that's mounted longitudinally, and that's because this is technically a rear drive architecture, something that it shares with the latest Ford Explorer, which is what they call their CD6 platform. The power output figures here are unchanged. The 3-liter double overhead cam twin turbo V6 still makes 400 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque. The engine does have direct injection, of course, and it's hooked up to a 10-speed automatic transmission. That's a Lincoln design transmission. Lincoln said they've made some upgrades to the software programming for the transmission this year, so we'll talk about that later on during the driving scene. Rear-wheel drive is going to be standard for an extra $2,500, which is optional on the Premier and the Reserve trim. Standard on the Black Label, you can get the company's intelligent all-wheel drive system, of course. My test car has the all-wheel drive option. Now, with all-wheel drive, it's rated to get 17 in the city and 24 on the highway. That's on premium gas. It has a 20.2-gallon fuel tank. You're looking at around 400 miles of range on a full tank. Now, Lincoln doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time. The last Explorer ST that we tested a couple months ago with this same powertrain did it in just over 5 seconds, so I imagine this car should be pretty similar. Top speed should also be similar to the Explorer at around 145 miles an hour. The Lincoln is capable of towing up to 5,000 pounds on this particular trim, and as this car sits, it weighs in at around 5,100 pounds, so it is a good 400 pounds heavier than the last Explorer ST that we tested. However, the last Aviator that we had for a week about almost 3 years ago was the plug-in hybrid model, which had basically a V6 with the electric motor system. That model weighed a whopping 700 pounds heavier, although it did have around 94 more horsepower. But again, this powertrain should be good enough for most people. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here and talk about the exterior styling, which, first of all, this exterior color is called Pristine White Tri-Coat. Just look at the gorgeous metallic fleck in the actual paint. It's an extra $750. It pairs nicely with the Jet Appearance package for an extra $1,700 that my test car has, which essentially blacks out a lot of the chrome accents that you typically find on Lincolns. You can see the big Lincoln logo, or big Lincoln grille here is blacked out, which has, you know, the Lincoln Star treatment here with the Lincoln logo, of course, front and center. I believe you can get an illuminated logo. However, I think it's only on the Black Label trim. You can see the headlights are updated this year. They have that new LED running light, and they're a little bit larger this year. You can see they are the adaptive style headlights with the projectors for the low and high beams. They certainly look good with the daytime running light and the LED turn signals. No sequential dynamic turn signals, and also no fog lights. You can see down here the front bumper has been redone. With the Jet Appearance package, you have some black accents, some fake and functional openings. You can see the front fascia here has more of the stars at the lower splitter. That little sensor area there is the radar sensor for the Lincoln Blue Cruise system, which is standard equipment on all versions where it offers their hands-free driving. You basically just have to pay for the subscription service to have it activated. But overall, I think the front end update is definitely a successful one. Not quite as distinctive, of course, as the new Nautilus, but it has some of the Nautilus styling elements here. The Aviator is due for full redesign in the next couple of years. But moving around the side profile, being built off of the Explorer and slotting in between the Nautilus and the Navigator, the Aviator's size is pretty much perfectly proportioned for a lot of families. With a 119.1-inch wheelbase, it's the same as the Explorer, but its overall length is 199.3. So it's around an inch longer than the Explorer in the overall length. 78.6 is the width of the vehicle, the same width as the Ford. And then as you can see, my test car here has the optional, with the Jet Appearance package, 22-inch multiple spoke gloss black wheels. They're riding on a 275/40 R22 Goodyear Eagle Touring all-season tire. You have all-disc brakes, and then I also love the full paint finish that you get with the Jet Appearance package along the wheel arch trim. There's a little bit of black along the side sill there, but with the adaptive air suspension, with the dynamic handling package, you can raise and lower the vehicle, but it also will go into a low access mode to help you get in and out of it a little bit easier. I can't stress this enough, guys. Just look at the metallic fleck in this paint. It's one of the most beautiful white exterior colors that I've seen, especially for just $750. Now you can see there's a little bit of an Aviator badge there to let everybody know what you're driving. The Jet Appearance package also includes this gloss black mirrors and the black along the window trim. You can get a black painted roof on this car. It's part of the Black Label option for like a special package. It's like an extra $6 grand. I would personally skip it. The panoramic Vista roof is standard when you guys go for the reserve trim, which is the mid trim. And then back and within the vehicle, the overall profile hasn't changed because this is a refresh. I still think the Aviator looks great. This is definitely a standout design. And it also goes with the rest of the Lincoln family. Now, the changes out back are pretty minimal. You can see the taillights look unchanged. They are the trendy full-length LED light bar. And you also have LED turn signals, LED reverse lights, LED brake lights. Lincoln is boldly spelled out at the back. No Aviator badges here at the back. It's just at the side, as you guys saw. The rear spoiler also is nice and pronounced back here. The rear window wiper is tucked in underneath the spoiler. No digital camera rearview mirror, surprisingly. And then you can see with the Jet Appearance package, you have the full paint finish extending to the rear bumper and the quad outlet exhaust, which the exhaust system on this car you can see is interesting because it looks like it's a traditional, chrome tipped exhaust, but the actual mufflers point down. And I think that's actually clever because it keeps exhaust soot from getting all over the chrome tips, where you don't have to wipe off all the, the blackness off of the exhaust tips. Now, looking at the cargo area, you can see a hands-free power liftgate is included on this trim, and the Aviator offers a pretty decent amount of cargo space, but definitely not class-leading. If you guys are comparing this to the Lexus TX, the Lexus will have more space, but you still get 19.2 cubic feet of storage space with the third row seat up. The third row is standard. As you can see, you have some deep underfloor storage, actually, underneath this cargo cover, which is nice. This third row only seats 2 people across. You can push a button here, and it will electrically fold the third row down. When you fold down the third row, it expands the cargo to 42.8 cubic feet of space, which is good. If you fold down the second row and everything, Lincoln says you have a maximum of 79.8. Now, 79.8 is still pretty good. However, it is around 8 cubic feet less versus the Explorer, which, remember, the Explorer is about the same size, actually a little bit shorter. So I guess it just has to do with the packaging or perhaps the way Lincoln measures cargo, but it is a little bit less than the Ford, but this does have around 10 cubic feet more than an Audi Q7. However, if you want one of the biggest cargo areas, you should also check out the Lexus TX, which offers an extra almost 20 cubic feet versus this car. So on the outside, Lincoln made some small changes to the front fascia, but what about the interior? This is where Lincoln actually did make some bigger changes compared to the pre-refresh model. Before we get inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the current Lincoln Intelligent Access key. It's basically the same key you're going to find in a lot of Ford models with the Lincoln logo, of course. It's a big key that feels pretty high quality, but I just wish that Lincoln would kind of do a smaller, more, I guess, luxury-oriented key, just something more unique. You can see the buttons here are plentiful. You have unlock, lock, remote start, power liftgate, and panic function. I believe Lincoln also offers their phone as a key. If you guys are an owner, you can also take advantage of that. As you can see, just like other Ford models, you have the digital keypad here, which is a lot more modernized versus before. These door handles are essentially, they look like the standard pull style, but they're actually fixed. There's a little bit of a button pressure pad there that you push to open up the door. The vehicle does not offer a walkaway lock or unlock feature, but it will sense when you have the key on you, and you can basically just push that. That will unlock the door for you. You could also push that right there. That will lock the door, as opposed to having a button here. You actually just tap that little button there. That's what locks the door from the outside. Now, once you open up the door, the pristine white tri-coat exterior of my test car is complemented by the upgraded 30-way perfect position seats, and this color is called Onyx and Hot Chocolate. So very much is the color of hot chocolate. It's a really beautiful like dark brown color, or deep brown color, I should say. And the 30-way seats certainly look very interesting. You can literally adjust them in almost any way that you'd like, including each individual bolster for your thighs to kind of find your perfect position. These seats are also heated, ventilated, and massaging. They're part of the luxury package that's included with the Reserve 2 package. These seats are standard when you guys go for the black label. The door panel materials, you can see, have a soft touch injection molded plastic on the upper portion with faux contrast stitching. That hot chocolate brown leather carries over here. You have some piano black plastic trim, and you have one touch for all 4 windows, along with the 28 speaker Revel Ultima 3D audio system that's included with the luxury with the Reserve 2 package as well. And you can see your seat controls are located here on the door, just like on some Mercedes models. Your 3-person memory is also included with a quick button here to access the massage function. Down in this lower portion, it is a hard touch plastic material. And you also have metal speaker covers for the Revel audio system, in addition to a little bit more storage as well. This button is where you open up the door. It's an electronic door, and there's also a dummy manual lever here in case the power decides to go out on you. But overall, the interior makes a great first impression. It just doesn't have that wow factor from the new Nautilus and Navigator with the big 48-inch pillar-to-pillar display. Now, getting inside, this vehicle has roughly 8 inches of ground clearance when it's in its normal mode. And then as I shut the door has a pretty solid sounding thunk. You can get a soft closed door feature if you guys go for the black label model. So there's a reason why the black label is far more expensive than this. Now, starting the vehicle up, you can see start stop button is right here by the piano key shifter. And this is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid, so it has a very traditional starter noise, and it also has the Lincoln chime. That's part of their symphonic chimes that they went to the Detroit Symphony to kind of create. It's different versus what Ford uses, so I very much appreciate that little ambiance change. Now, as you can see, looking at the rest of this cabin, there are a lot of things to talk about, but let's go ahead and start with the obvious. It has the new infotainment system. So the driver faces a 12.4-inch digital cluster, which also kind of stands as its own tablet-style display. And then you have in the center a 13.2-inch touchscreen, which runs their Lincoln Digital Experience software. This is pretty similar to what we've seen in the new Nautilus as well, and the Navigator, but it's not quite as intricate. You can still pull up features like YouTube. It has Android Automotive and Google built in. So that's pretty nice as well if you want to pull that up, you want to watch your favorite YouTube channel, of course. But what it is lacking, if I go to the car display here, is there's no digital scent, there's no Lincoln Rejuvenate, and that's kind of features that's kind of tied into their newest platform, which this car wasn't able to get in the software or in the refresh. You have to wait until Lincoln does the full 48-inch display, which kind of is a problem in this car because the cheaper and smaller Nautilus has it as standard, but it's not included here on this model. You can see the Reserve 2 package also includes the head-up display, which you can't really see right now because of the bright sunlight. And then the steering wheel is the older steering wheel as opposed to the flat bottom and top 2-spoke wheel in the new Navigator and Nautilus. The buttons, as you can see, are traditional buttons, but at the same time, some of them are like a touch-sensitive button. If you turn on the adaptive cruise, it actually reveals 2 more buttons here for the Blue Cruise functionality. There's paddles to control the 10-speed auto. There's a button here to control the voice activation, which I find to be in a really awkward position because you'll hit it from time to time on accident. But this steering wheel definitely dates the car. It would have been nice if Lincoln gave us a new steering wheel. The instrument panel is slightly customizable. You can make the tachometer go away. You can also change the theme for the background there in the infotainment settings here. And then when you put the vehicle into reverse, your shifter is here. You can see there's your full top-down 360 camera with trajectory, parking sensors, distance markers, cross-traffic braking, the quality and the resolution. It's pretty much the same that I tested in the last Explorer. Not quite as good as some of the European rivals, but it still certainly will get the job done. In terms of materials on the dash, this upper portion is a soft touch injection molded plastic. There's some wood, matte finish wood here, leather with some stitching on this portion here. You have traditional air vents as opposed to the digital vents that you'll find in some other Lincoln models, so I appreciate that. The steering wheel is a power tilt telescoping mechanism. It offers a good amount of adjustability and range where you can get a comfortable driving position, and then you can see you have a volume knob here. You have some more buttons here for your traction control, your 360 camera, of course. There's a chrome Lincoln strip here that shows you, or that kind of shows a little bit more of like a upscale ambiance. And then this right here, I really like how Lincoln, didn't put some piano black plastic. Instead, it has like a metallic looking trim, which with a matte finish, wireless charging pad here. And then there's also a lid that you can close, additional storage back here, which is actually pretty good. You have 2 cup holders, more storage, and you can again close both of these lids to reveal a sturdy console lid, which is nice. Your drive mode selector is here. You can see Lincoln offers a choice between, it looks like deep conditions, slippery, normal, sport, or conserve, which is like an eco, and then there's also excite, which is their sporty drive mode. So it looks like a total of 6 or 5 different drive modes. We'll try them out when we get the vehicle out on the road, of course. Center console you can see is nice and padded, and you have some pretty deep center console storage there, which is nice. This is actually big enough to put all my camera equipment in there. As I mentioned, the seats are also, again, pretty comfortable and supportive, but once you find that perfect position, save it, because it takes a while for you to find that perfect position seat, so kind of keep that in mind. The GPS, as you can see, is now Google based, which is nice. It's basically the same screen that you're going to find in your computer at home. And compared to the old Lincoln system, which was a 10.1-inch display, this is an upgrade. But again, this is the same screen and software that's in the new Explorer, so keep that in mind. There's nothing really different here. The graphics are slightly different, along with being able to change the theme in the background. But again, Lincoln could have done more here. But they said that they couldn't put in their 48-inch display without doing a complete redesign, so kind of keep that in mind. The glove compartment, you can see, open that up, it's a bin style. It's damped and lined with felt. It offers additional covered storage, which is nice. The audio system also sounds incredible. If you guys are an audiophile, this is definitely an upgrade versus the Bang & Olufsen system in the Explorer, so there's a reason why Lincoln charges a lot more. But overall, the interior definitely, looks nice at a glance, at least if you've never been inside the new Nautilus and Navigator, and you've also never been inside the Explorer. Build quality has definitely improved. Didn't hear a single squeak and rattle in this car. I don't like how there's no digital camera review mirror, but there's a frameless auto dimming mirror. And then you can see above me, the sunroof is a panoramic style. It also opens up to vent air. You can also do a tilt function. It only opens up over the front seats. There's also a built-in wind deflector as well, but this is at least nice how it opens up. And you can see this is the largest that it opens. So it's, again, just over the 2 front seats. So kind of keep that in mind. The sunroof in this model is definitely a plus. So overall, the interior is still very much what you expect from Lincoln. Just keep in mind some competitors, including Lincoln's own models, do offer a slightly more impressive interior in terms of tech. Now, moving into the second and the third row, the Aviator is going to do well as a family vehicle, but also remember that it's not quite as spacious as some of its newer rivals. As you can see, the door panel materials offer the same soft touch injection molded plastic with lots of piano black plastic here, metal speaker covers, the same hot chocolate leather over this area where it's nice and padded. No retractable sunshades on this model here. Some competitors, again, offer that. And then there's also hard touch plastics or hard touch materials down here with additional door storage materials. Now, these captain's chairs, as you can see, are standard. You can option in a bench on this trim for no additional charge to increase the seating capacity to 7. This one, as you can see, only seats 6 people because the third row only seats 2 across. As I get back here, you can see and close the door. The space back here isn't what I would call the most spacious. That Lincoln says you have around 39 inches of legroom back here. So this is basically my driving position. There's good foot space, but I definitely feel a little bit more cramped here compared to some rivals that offer a little over 40 inches of legroom. But this is still obviously not bad. You do have rear seat air vents back here, which is nice. You have a screen back here where you can basically control the audio, the climate, the air quality as well, which is kind of cool. And then there's also heated and cooled seats back here as well. So the heated and cooled seats are part of the luxury package. So highly recommend that, but there is no massaging seats in the second row like you might find in the Navigator, for example. You can adjust the brightness of the screen here if you'd like, which I probably would have it on max brightness. It is a really small display, but it's nice that Lincoln gives you that. Along with the rear seat air vents, you have a standard household power outlet. You have 2 USB-C charging ports. There's not a completely flat floor here if you guys have the bench seat model, but there is an armrest that folds down. The seats do have the ability to move forward and back, which this is with it all the way back. It also does recline, although the recline function isn't that bad, or it isn't that much, so kind of keep that in mind. Some competitors offer a little bit more recline. My test car for an extra $420 has the center console that's fixed with cup holders, additional storage, 2 more USB-C charging ports in here, along with a lid that'll close up. So this definitely looks nice. It's certainly worth the extra $400, but it also will take away the ability to walk through the center seat here to get into the third row. The Panoramic sunroof comes into the second row over my head. And then in terms of headroom, you can see I have maybe an inch or 2 inches of additional clearance. So it's not bad, but just keep in mind some competitors do offer more second row space, but there's a good amount of features in this car as well. Now getting into the third row, because of the fixed center console, there's a button here that you can push, and that slides the seat or tilts the seat forward and then pushes it out of the way. That is slightly a problem if you have a child seat anchored here. You won't be able to move the seat at least as well, at least I don't think, because it has to tilt forward. But getting back here, as you can see, the third row is definitely not the most spacious in the class. Now, as you can see, sliding over to this side with this seat all the way back, Lincoln says you have around 29 inches of legroom back here, which 29 inches is not a lot. The Lexus TX offers an additional 4 more inches of legroom, I believe. You do have third row air vents. That's something you don't get in the Acura MDX, which is nice. You also have 2 USB-C charging ports back here. It's only on the passenger side though. The bench could be big enough to fit 3 across, but it is a little bit narrow. It's also very low to the ground. My knees are pretty much jammed up against the seat here, so I'd have to ask this passenger to move this seat up, which doesn't offer that much legroom, so that's kind of a problem. You do have LED map lighting back here and a relatively good sized window and some cup holders to kind of get a decent view back here, which is nice. The headroom space is, I'd say, maybe a solid inch of headroom back here, so it's not great. So keep that in mind. The third row in this vehicle is mostly reserved for children. So be sure you take a look at like the Lexus TX if you need a third row that can actually carry full-size adults. So it's been about 2 years since I've had a Lincoln Aviator to test for you guys for a full week. This nameplate, as you guys know, made a comeback to America back in 2020, and it's once again built off of the Explorer's latest architecture. This time, however, it's built on their new CD6 architecture, which is a rear-wheel drive platform. So after 5 years on the market, Lincoln is finally giving the Aviator some updates, and they're pretty extensive, although from the interior, as you can see, the only thing that we really got is just a new 12.4-inch display for the instrument panel and then a 13.2-inch display for the center. It has their new Lincoln Digital Experience with wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, as you can see, but it doesn't have their new like full 48-inch panoramic display that we saw in the Nautilus and of course the now Lincoln Navigator. But Lincoln also made a big change. They discontinued the plug-in hybrid, which was the last one that I tested. That model offered nearly 500 horsepower and 630 foot-pounds of torque. It did 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds, which was respectable, but it also weighed almost 6,000 pounds. So this engine is the base engine, a 3-liter twin-turbo V6 from the Explorer ST, making 400 horsepower, 415 pound-feet of torque. Those are still impressive numbers. The last time I 0 to 60 tested an Explorer on this road, it did it in 5.08 seconds. So let's go ahead and see what the Aviator can do. It does weigh around 400 pounds more. We have the car in its Excite Sport mode. We're going to brake torque it. Oof. Sounds good, shifts quick as well. 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds with this model. 5.4 is actually the same time that we got in the last plug-in hybrid version, and that's because the plug-in hybrid weighs around 700 pounds more than this vehicle. So the extra power and torque of the plug-in hybrid was negated by the extra weight, and that's probably one of the reasons why Lincoln discontinued the plug-in hybrid. It was slow sales. It didn't offer that much more performance, that much more fuel efficiency, and its range was only like 21 miles. They could have honestly done a plug-in hybrid with a bigger battery pack and improved the power and the range, but I guess Lincoln just kind of said that most buyers were choosing the twin-turbo V6 base engine anyways. It was also an expensive proposition to go to the plug-in hybrid. Let's try another run here. This time it's slightly more uphill. This time I also won't brake torque it. Engine sounds good. It has a little bit of turbo lag, 5.89 seconds there, but once you gotta get past like 3,000 RPM, it really comes alive. And that number is pretty impressive on our first run, like 5.4 seconds. It's around a half or 0.4 seconds slower than the last Explorer ST that I tested, which was literally just a couple months ago. And that's because the Lincoln carries an extra 400 pounds. That time is also slightly slower than the Acura MDX Type S, which I would probably say is this car's main rival. The Acura is also around 400 pounds lighter than this car, but the Acura also has 355 horsepower versus 400 in this model. Now, in terms of handling, my particular test car has the optional air adaptive suspension. Now the suspension does have the ability to raise and lower the vehicle. It has adaptive dampers as well. So in sport mode and excite mode, it's putting it in its most aggressive setting, which is not sporty still. It still feels very soft, cushy, comfortable. This thing reminds you that Lincoln is all about that quiet luxury theme here, about giving you a very isolated, controlled, and comfortable ride on those longer trips. The steering is pretty slow, actually. It doesn't offer anything in terms of feedback. So this is where the Explorer ST feels noticeably sportier, but almost a little too sporty at times. I really like the way the Explorer ST drove. The MDX also drives, the Type S drives a lot sportier than this vehicle as well, but it's also still very comfortable. This is pretty much, I'd say, on par with ride comfort as the MDX, but not quite as sporty in terms of the responsiveness and the steering feel and the suspension tuning. But this is not bad. This is very much going in line with the Lincoln theme here. And it's a luxury SUV. You don't want it to beat you up. And that's kind of, what buyers are looking for. The all-wheel drive system in this car also does have more of a rear drive bias. It actually cut power pretty annoyingly there when I turned the wheel just to see if it would actuate any brake torquing. It doesn't really do that. It doesn't have any torque vectoring the way the MDX Type S does with its super handling all-wheel drive. But it still is plenty fast, it's still plenty fun, and I think the base engine is plenty of power for most people, so that's kind of why Lincoln decided to just keep that powertrain as the standard offering. Let's try another run here. This time we won't brake torque it. .7 seconds there. Now, that's with it pretty much on level surface, so when you brake torque it, it seems to add, or seems to shave the time down a smidge. But again, if you're gonna be doing mid 5-second runs 0 to 60 in this car, that's pretty potent performance from a base powertrain. It also basically keeps pace with all of its European competitors. The Audi Q7 that I last tested did it in 5.7 seconds. A BMW X7 is a little bit faster at like 5, or actually it's about the same at like 5.3 seconds as well. So this is pretty good performance. Now there are quicker offerings like the Volvo XC90 T8 Recharge, which did it in 4.8 seconds, but I think the 5-second range is pretty darn impressive. Now, I also love the comfort aspect of this car. The seats, I'm sitting here getting a massage. These are the 30-way perfect position seats that are part of the Reserve 2 upgrade package, which is included with that luxury package, basically. And once you find that perfect position, these seats are comfortable and supportive. Once you do that, there's so many ways that you can mess with the seats. You basically just push the set button there and don't touch it, because it'll take you a moment to find that comfortable driving position. The visibility out of this car is actually pretty good as well. I can see out of the front and the side nicely. This A-pillar isn't as thick as I thought it was going to be, and you have a good view out of the rear. Although my test car doesn't have a digital camera review mirror, I don't think Lincoln offers that. I didn't see that on the options list, which is surprising to me how they don't offer that feature, especially when you have the third row headrest up. It kind of blocks your view. But with the new infotainment system here, you can see it's basically the same screen in the Explorer, and that's kind of where I have my problems with this car. Is I think the interior, while it is noticeably nicer, you can go for the black label to get even nicer leather and nicer wood materials as well. The software behind it is also the Lincoln Digital Experience. I really would have liked to see, their digital scent feature in this car. It doesn't have their Lincoln Rejuvenate feature that I tested in the Nautilus and in the Navigator. So that just kind of gives Lincoln an edge over the Explorer. At this point, however, where it's too similar, and the same thing with the powertrain, it's too similar as well, I have trouble justifying the extra cost for the Lincoln Aviator versus a fully loaded Explorer Platinum, considering how nice the Explorer has gotten as well. But in terms of fuel efficiency, this vehicle is rated at 17 at 24 mpg. It's 1 mpg less in the city than the Explorer's 1824. And in my week's worth of testing, I averaged around 19 mpg in mixed driving, which is not bad. On the highway, I got around 24 mpg, so it was pretty much bang on with the targets. This car will easily do around 400 miles of range on a full tank. I did around 380 in my week's worth of testing, so still very good. This engine does require premium fuel. Of course, it's the Lincoln version with its 20-gallon fuel tank, so it's a little bit thirsty to fill up. So this is kind of where it would have been nice if Lincoln would have kept around the plug-in hybrid part, improved the efficiency, improved the range, but it also would have added cost, it would have added complexity. So this is definitely the simpler route and the less expensive route, but at the same time, the Aviator is not the least expensive offering in the segment. It's a good 20 grand more expensive than most Explorer trim levels, which I, again, have trouble justifying. But you know, the Lincoln Aviator still drives incredibly well. It's comfortable, it's luxurious. This model has much better build quality than the earlier ones that I tested, especially the plug-in hybrid that I had a couple of years ago. That one just had squeaks and rattles everywhere, and it had a power window control that just didn't work properly all the time. But this one has been trouble-free, which is good. It's showing that Lincoln is kind of improving their build quality. They're addressing their issues that they had with the earlier teething models. And as long as you guys are okay with, you know, the hefty price premium over an Explorer, I do find this car to be appealing, although at the same time, there are a lot of good entries in this segment for similar or less money, so make sure you also check out the competition. Now, with just over 25,000 units sold in America last year, Lincoln actually had their best sales year ever for the Aviator since this generation first came out. They sold a whopping 10,000 units more versus the same time in the US in 2023. So clearly, the Aviator is starting to pick up steam. Now, at the same time, that sales figure is about half what Acura does in terms of MDX sales. So there's a little bit of work to do, but Lincoln is definitely on the right path. So after spending a full week with the updated 2025 Aviator, I have to say this is still a very enticing luxury three-row family SUV, especially if you don't want a European model, which can get a lot more expensive, a lot more complex. You also like the design of this car. You like the kind of American luxury quiet flight theme that Lincoln is very much known for. As you guys saw, the base engine is plenty of power for most people, 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds. While it is slower than the last Explorer ST that I tested, so don't pick any fights with an Explorer ST if you pull up next to one at the light, this is pretty much on par with a lot of its other Japanese and European rivals. Some rivals are a little bit quicker, some rivals are a little bit slower, so Lincoln has kind of found itself right in the sweet spot in terms of power. The ride quality is also luxury car smooth. It's also quiet on the inside. Build quality of this model has improved significantly versus the last Aviator that I tested nearly 3 years ago. So that shows that Lincoln is improving their build quality and the interior. While the interior infotainment system got an update this year, I am sad that Lincoln wasn't able to add their full experience here with the Lincoln Rejuvenate, the 48-inch screen. The 13.2-inch screen with the Lincoln Digital Experience is certainly acceptable, but it's also the same system that you get in the Explorer. There isn't really much that's different here aside from having some slightly different graphics, a different instrument clusters display, and the seats, while they are comfortable and supportive, the 30-way seats with the massage function is nice. I'm just not sure it's worth the big price tag that Lincoln charges to kind of get those upgraded features. The third row and second row is also family friendly, although the third row is more reserved for kids. The second row is a little bit more usable, and cargo space is again among an average figure. So there are competitors that offer more space, such as the new Lexus TX. Now, when you look at the pricing of the new Aviator, this is where things start to get a little bit complex because the Aviator is definitely a hefty price premium over an Explorer. You can get into a base Explorer for like 40 grand. An Aviator starts at around $59,000 for the base Premier. That's with rear-wheel drive. Add $2,500 if you guys want all-wheel drive. Now, most of you will probably be happy with the base Premier, adding in a couple of options. You can get one for around $66,000, which again, kind of think about a Ford Explorer when you look at a fully loaded one. The last Explorer Platinum or ST that I tested was around 67 grand. But at the same time, it also had that expensive black roof that was $5,000 extra. This particular Reserve package that I'm showing you here starts at around 66 grand. And then the Reserve 2 package, which includes the luxury package and the upgraded Revel Ultima audio system and a couple of other upgrades here and there. This model here, or that adds $8,000. Plus, when you add the dynamic handling package, which includes the upgraded adaptive air suspension, the jet appearance package with destination and this color upcharge, my particular test car here is around $83,000. I know 83 grand for essentially, some would argue a guzzied up Explorer is expensive, but at the same time, you could argue the same thing about a Lexus TX or an Acura MDX, for example. Now, keep in mind the Black Label version, which is, the top trim, can easily be optioned up to almost $100,000, which I actually think is too expensive. I think the sweet spot for this model is either the Premier trim with a couple of light options. If you can give up the 30-way perfect position seats and the Revel audio system and the massage function, you can get into an Aviator for around 66 grand. You could also skip the jet appearance package of my test car here and the dynamic handling package, and you can get this car for about $80,000, which puts it more in line with the last Acura MDX Type S that I tested, which was around 77 grand. A Lexus TX is also around 77 grand as well for the 500h F Sport with the luxury package. Looking at some of its European rivals, an Audi Q7 is about $85,000. A BMW X7, however, starts at around $87,000, goes up to the mid $90,000 range for a comparably equipped model. So there is some value to be had here. I'm just not entirely sure this model is worth 20 grand more versus like a comparable Explorer Platinum. I would probably pay $10,000 more. So I would personally look at an Explorer Platinum, look at a Lincoln Aviator, check to see which deals are better, and then make a decision from there, because they're essentially the same models. But the Lincoln, I will argue, has a better audio system and it has more comfortable seats, but at the same time, I just don't think it's worth $20,000 more for this Lincoln model, at least until we get an all-new Aviator with their new 48-inch display and their Lincoln Rejuvenate features. But while that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Lincoln Aviator. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.